All right, guys, I think we're good to go. So today we're going to talk about Velo. My name is Edu. If you haven't seen me before, oh, there's someone from Dublin. I'm from Dublin. And if you haven't seen me before, I'm the head of community at Wix and EditorX, and I'll be your host today alongside with Meredith and Joshua, who are the actual experts here talking today. But I'll make sure that I'll, look after you guys in the meantime. So today we're going to talk about Velo, give you a quick intro and share some really, really cool stuff. But just before we get started, I really want to remind you that we have a contest that's actually happening right now, which is a contest for the best website creation you have ever. And you can submit as many websites if you have more than one that you feel really proud of. The way to submit is super simple. You go to editorx.com/contest. The URL should show up now in your chat, and then you can submit your website, and then the winner will get some really cool prizes. We're gonna do like some evaluation with our design team alongside also the off Barcelona guys who are also gonna help us, check the coolest prizes. Go to the page, Darren, you're gonna see what the prizes are. So I promise it's pretty cool, but just don't go right now, because if you go, you're gonna forget us here. So stay with us, and then at the end you can go. Okay, awesome. All right, guys. So are we good to get started? So let me introduce you guys to Meredith. She's gonna be talking and starting the conversation with Elo, and then we have Joshua, who is in the back end here. Also, well, that sounded really code related, isn't it? In the back end. He's in the background here. He will also be helping answering questions that you have. So anytime you have a question, you can use the Q&A box. So just make sure you go to the Q&A box so we can actually see the questions that you guys are asking. If you ping the chat, it may get lost and we may not see your answer, okay? So you can go to the Q&A, which is just besides the link that says raise hands. All right, so I think we're good to go. So Meredith, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thanks, Ed. It's great to be here with you guys in EditorX. I'm really excited to show you some of the things that you can do with Velo. So we're here to introduce you to Velo and show you how you can add code to your EditorX site. You don't need to add any code to your EditorX site. So if you're already using the drag and drop format, that's fantastic. But if you're looking to take your site to the next level, add some more enhancements, add some more customization, Velo is really going to help you do that. And we'll show you how throughout this presentation. Feel free to ask any questions you have about Velo in the chat, and we'll try to answer them either as we go through this presentation at the end or in our follow-up webinar. So without further ado, let's get started. My name is Meredith Hassett. I am based in the San Francisco Bay Area, so good morning from me. It's afternoon and evening for the rest of you guys out there. I am a front-end developer by trade, but just because I do front-end development doesn't mean I am not interested in the back-end. I just prefer doing integrations. So using tools like Twilio or SendGrid to add additional enhancements to my site. You can find me on LinkedIn and Twitter. So if you have any questions, even after today's presentation, feel free to reach out to me on either of those platforms. With us, we also have Joshua in the chat. He is our other developer advocate. Joshua is based out of New York City, and he'll be leading our next webinar. So feel free to ask questions in that Q&A, and Joshua will be helping answer them throughout the presentation. So before we get started, I just want to take a second to see how many of you guys are already using Velo. Is anyone aware of Velo? So feel free to put this answer in the chat. Cool, so I'm seeing some yeses, some no's, some beginners. Oh, some old Corvid users. Yes, so Corvid was the name, and we did a recent rebranding back in January of this year. Cool, so a lot of you guys, it looks like, are either a little all over the place. We've got some beginners, we've got some who've not used Velo before, and some that have used it. Awesome. So hopefully this will show you some of the features that you can use. If you're already using it with the Wix editor, we're going to go over a lot of the features that you're already seeing on the Wix editor, and you can use all of those same features over on EditorX. So we'll show you how you can incorporate all of that functionality onto your EditorX site that you're already using, maybe in the Wix editor. So if you're not familiar with it, this will be really cool to see all of the new features. But if you are familiar with it, then you're just going to see how to import those features over onto EditorX. We're going to show you some more basic features today, so don't worry, this is not going to be too complex. We're just going to show you some really basic functionality of how EditorX and Velo can help you incorporate more personalization into your site. So cool, really excited that a lot of you have already heard of it. but a lot of you want some more help to get started. We're also going to link some resources at the end. So if you guys want to learn more about Editor X and Velo, you can check out the resources that we share for you guys at the end as well. It'll show you some example sites, some videos, some blogs, some tutorials, and a lot of opportunity to incorporate more features into your Editor X site. Awesome. So for those of you that aren't familiar with Velo, Velo is a full stack web development platform on top of Editor X. So you can use it with the drag and drop UI that you're used to in either the Wix editor or Editor X, and it allows you to enable more features, add more customization, personalization, more advanced functionality to your site. It gives you access to a lot of new functionality behind the backend. So we know people were asking about performance, and what you can do is you can offload a lot of heavy lifting from the UI of your site to the backend of your site, because when you turn on dev mode and enable Velo for your site, it gives you access to not only the front end of your website, but the back end as well as the databases too. So let's go ahead and take a look at all of these features and what they can help you with. So this is Velo's full stack ecosystem. We like to say it has a built-in cloud IDE. So no additional setup for you guys. Once you turn on Velo, you'll have an IDE built into your cloud that enables you to add code to your site right there. This makes it really easy for code maintenance purposes because you're going to code the site functionality onto the page itself. I'll show you guys what this looks like in the editor in a little bit, but this is going to make it really nice and easy for setup purposes because you don't have to set up any additional editors. You don't have to worry about setting up a code environment on your local machine. We're going to do all of this in the cloud. It is running on top of a Node.js server, so you still get all of the functionality that you would expect from a JavaScript full stack platform because we're going to be running on Node, so you can incorporate all of your favorite NPM packages as well as any additional functionality that you may be already using on Node. IDE means integrated developer environment, so that's going to be a integrated code editor on your page, which I'll show you guys in a minute. As I mentioned, yes, we're running on a Node.js server where we get access to all of our favorite NPM packages, like the Twilio helper packages, which we'll take a look at in a second, and we'll dive more into what we can do with NPM in the second webinar. You can also expose site functionality using HTTP functions. So if there's any sort of data or functionality on your site that you need to incorporate or share with other users, it's going to be really easy to expose and share site functionality using the Velo APIs, which are also available for our front-end features. So I know a lot of people are asking about being able to add UI elements with Velo. You can't add UI elements, but you can manipulate them using our front-end APIs. We'll show you how to show hide some UI elements using Velo. So this is a great way where if you have to have a dynamic experience on your page, you can go ahead and show information based off different data points that you have in your database on, for example, your product page, which is what we're going to be looking at today. You also get access to databases. So this is going to be really handy for if you need to have any data-driven sites or you need to access external databases. You get access to more advanced marketing tools and developer tools, as well as creating dynamic pages. So creating pages based off of your database. Without further ado, I think it's time we actually dive in and let me take you on a tour of the editor so you can see where all of these features are. So I'm going to switch over, oops. Of course, the little zoom bar is hiding my tabs. There we go. So I'm going to switch over here to the Editor X experience. And if you're familiar with Editor X already, then you're very familiar with this experience here. So this is your Editor X site. We're going to be looking at an accessories store today. When you get into Editor X, you may have noticed in this top menu bar, there's a feature called Dev Mode. When you turn on Dev Mode, this is how you enable Velo on your site. It's going to change the entire experience for us and open up a lot of new functionality. So let's go ahead and take a look at what it looks like when we turn Dev Mode on. So when we turn Dev Mode on here, oops, it's going to open up a couple new windows for us here. At the very bottom, we're going to see that integrated developer environment, so that IDE. This is where you add code for your site. So in this page example, we're on the home page. So we're going to be able to add code to our home page here. So this makes it really nice and easy for code maintenance purposes, because when I'm physically looking at the UI of the page, I'm actually seeing the code of that page as well. So this makes it super easy for code maintenance and to help you remember where you're adding elements, where you're changing things in the code, where you're adding that dynamic functionality to your site. You can also see your different verticals that maybe you've added to your site. So in this case, we have a members area. So we're able to see the members pages and customize that experience as well. We're able to see any light boxes that we have here. So if we need to customize the light box experience or use Velo API such as Wix window to open dynamically the light boxes on the page, we can see the light boxes and the names of the light boxes here as well. And at the very bottom of our page code panel, we're going to see master page. And so this is if you have any sort of code that you need to reuse on multiple pages within your site. So for example, if you need to customize the header or footer experience and you want this code to run on every single page, you would go ahead and add it here to the master page. This page code menu that we're seeing on the side just really helps us navigate our site a little bit more easily. We can see where sites are bundled up together. So for example, with shop, we're able to see that these are all part of the stores vertical and these are all under our shop experience. Similarly with blogs as well. So once you add those verticals, it keeps it nicely bundled together so you're able to keep track of where all of the pages for that vertical are. Beyond the page code, so this is going to be the front end of your application, we're able to also get access to the back end of our application. So when I go switch over to code files, over here, I'm going to see a couple new things that are going to look pretty new if you're not familiar with Velo. We're able to see our public area. So this is a great place for utility functions. So if you have some functionality that, again, you need on multiple pages within your site, but it's going to be a little bit more expensive in terms of performance, you can put it in the public area, and then you can use it on the back end and the front end of your application and remove a lot of heavy lifting or data intensive work from your UI of your application, because we are building web applications here, and anything that we do on the UI is going to slow down the user experience. So if we move that heavy lifting back to the public or the back end functions, we're going to remove a lot of data intensive operations from our UI. We also get access to the backend. So specific Wix verticals only allow you to access certain features through the backend. So this is where you would do a lot of that, again, data intensive work here, or work with NPM packages as well, because they can be a little bit more expensive and you have no control over the performance of an NPM package. So when you want to integrate something like Twilio into your site, you might want to do it here on the backend, where you can go ahead and use the Twilio NPM module in the site, as well as other backend APIs that are available from Wix to do a data intensive operation and site functionality. We also have access to packages. So NPM packages are going to be the ones you're familiar with if you're coming from a Node developer environment. And here we have a really easy to use GUI package manager. So instead of having to go through your console or your CLI, you can go ahead and look at all of the packages available from Velo on Wix here, and you can easily install packages, find documentation for the package on how to use it with Velo, and then also find the rest of the documentation from the NPM package provider about how to work with that package. It's really easy to manage your installed packages, so you can also check for any updates, see the documentation, or uninstall them here. So you create a nice, simple UI for managing all of your packages on your site. Here we also get access to the new Velo package. So this is a newer feature where our common integrations or common use cases that we're seeing people use Velo for, the team has created these packages and expose them to you guys so you can incorporate that functionality onto your site without having to code it every single time you're adding it to a new site. This is a really exciting new feature. So these are just some of the integrations that we're releasing for you guys. So keep your eye on this, and you'll see new packages being added all the time because the team is working on new functionality to share with you guys here. And you'll also get access to all of the documentation you need about working with these packages as well, right here in the package manager. Beyond the package manager, we also get access to our content manager now in our editor. So over here, we're able to see all of the databases that come either out of the box or with the verticals that we've added to our site, as well as we're able to create any additional content managers that we need, or content collections that we need. So just think of these as your databases. So if you need to create a more data-driven site, you can easily add a new collection to your site and define a name as well as what the collection is for. So this is going to be where you're going to set those read-write access to your databases. So if you need to collect user information, you can create a new form with Velo and content collections, or if you need to display more information to your user, you can create a site content here. So you're able to control those permissions at this level as well to add additional data collections to your site. The last new thing that we want to show you guys here is the Velo tools. So when you enable Velo on your site, you get access to a few new tools for your site, which are really helpful for site management as well, and code management and site health. So in here, we see our release manager. So if we need to release a different version of our site, we want to do some A/B testing, we are rolling out a new feature and we want to see if users like it, we can go ahead and go to the release manager here and roll out the feature just to some of our users. We also get access to a secrets manager, which is really great for working with things like Twilio or other APIs where we have information that is sensitive to me as the developer or the user. And I don't want to expose that in plain text in my site, because if someone comes in and looks at it, we can use the secrets manager to be able to control what information is available for our users and where we hide those secrets. So this way, if anyone gets access to my code, they can't actually see what any of those secrets are. So secrets manager is really great for working with APIs and keeping your API keys secret from anyone who might have a bad intent when trying to find them. And the last thing we get access to is site monitoring. So this is really helpful for debugging your site as well as checking site health. So anytime there's any errors on your site, you can go to site monitoring and check the logs and see what any errors might be. It's also a great way to keep track of how your site is doing. Are users running into issues? And if they are, it can help you debug your site as well. So these tools are going to be available to you once you enable Velo on your Editor X site. Let's go ahead and take a look at how Velo APIs are going to help us. So we're going to switch over back to our front end code and look at some of the Velo front end APIs that can help us add functionality to our site to create a more personalized experience for our end users. Back on my main pages, I'm going to go ahead and go to my contact page. So this is what our contact page is going to look like. So on our contact page here, we have a form at the very bottom. And in that form, we're able to click on the different UI elements and see some new properties for them. So over here on the bottom right-hand side of the screen, you're able to see information about this UI element that you've selected. So we're able to get information like the IDs, which are going to be very important when you're developing because you want to give things descriptive names. So when you have a form, for example, instead of leaving it as a generic name, it's helpful to give it a descriptive name. So when I'm working with it in code, I know exactly what element I'm working with. Same thing with input fields. So now we can have custom input fields, and this will be for our first name input. So that's going to make it a lot easier to work with these input fields in code because I'm going to be able to remember what elements I'm working with. We can also add more dynamic functionality to elements such as buttons. So while you get out of the box with Editor X, you get access to creating hover features without adding code. If you need to add any functionality beyond that for interactions, we can use the Velo event handlers to add additional functionality to our site. So in this case, when the button is clicked, maybe I want to not only submit this to the contact form, but update my thank you message to make it more personalized so users know, A, that their information is being collected, and B, they get a more customized, personalized experience, so they may be more likely to come back to my site. So when this button is clicked, I want to go ahead and update the text of our submit success message. So the first thing I'm going to do is on the submit button, which I have selected here, I'm going to go to the on click event handler. I'm going to select that. And I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. And that automatically adds a code stub for me to add some functionality for when the button is clicked. So here is where I'm going to add my code for how I want to update the thank you message with when the button is clicked. So with Velo front-end APIs, I'm able to get and set values from our UI elements. I'm going to go ahead and define a new variable. So we're going to go ahead and define name, and we're going to set that to $W first name input dot value. And what this does is this retrieves how what the value the user has entered into that first name input field box. So $W is this new concept for our front-end APIs for working with your UI elements in Velo. So this is how we get access to those UI elements. When I say you can't create new elements, this is how we get access if we want to add any additional functionality to them, manipulate that, get the new values, set the values for it. So you use these APIs to hide information about those UI elements too. So this is the ability where you can create a more dynamic experience with your UI elements. Once I have the value, what I want to do is I want to update my thank you message to show that value so users are getting that personalized experience. So I can not only can I set value or get values with Wix for front-end APIs, I can also set values as well. So I'm going to use $W again. This time I'm going to get the success message. And as I mentioned, those IDs are important because it's going to autofill for you, and it's going to make it a lot easier to select the UI element that you want to be working with when you give it descriptive names. So I know that it's success message that I want to update. So I'm going to go ahead and update the text property of the success message. And we're going to go ahead and make it name. So that value that we grabbed from the user input. Thank you for submitting. Now, once I add this code, if I want to test it on my site, I'm going to go into preview mode. So when I click on preview, this is going to take me to a QA version of my site. Here, I'm going to fill out my form. Oops, it'd be helpful if I could type. And I'm going to go ahead and hit the submit button. And we're able to see that my submit message includes my name that I entered now through the form. So this helps you create a nice personalized user experience, whether it's on a form or maybe when a user logs into a certain page, you can retrieve information that either the user provided for you or provided via vertical and create a more customized experience for your users as they're navigating through your site. I'm going to go ahead back to edit site, and that's going to take me back into the editor. Now, a lot of you have asked about creating a customized product page experience. So I'm going to switch over to our shop and go to our product page to show you a really simple example of how you can customize the product experience based off different information available from the product. So back here on our product page, I have a product, and I've already added a new UI element called low in stock notification. This notification is going to only come up if a product has below 10 items left in its inventory, let's say, is our requirement. So what we want to do is we created this new text field. I gave it a descriptive name with my ID property, and I have it hidden here by default. So if we go ahead and preview this page, we're not going to see that low in text field because it's hidden using those properties available via Velo. So this is a great example of if you want to only show information based off certain fields in your database or certain information about your product, you can use the Velo default values to show or hide elements when the users initially get to the page. So we're going to keep it hidden, and we're going to add some code to show it if the inventory is below 10. So I already have a code stub here for our function that we're going to work on, because what we want to do is every time this page loads, onReady will fire. And so this will be loaded every single time that page is brought up by the user. Once the page loads, we want to go ahead and track product inventory. So this is where we're going to retrieve the product from the page. So we're going to get the context of the page the user's on. We're going to check if that inventory is below 10. And if it's below 10, we want to go ahead and show the low in stock notification. So what we're going to do first here is we're going to define our product, where our product is the context of the page that we're on. So we're going to go ahead and await, oops, $W, and we want to get the product, oops. Oh my gosh, I apologize. We got to use the selector. So we go ahead and get the product from the page. So the page is aware of the context of the product from the store that we're currently looking at. Once we retrieve the product, we can go ahead and also get the product quantity. And we're going to go ahead and get that from product. Oops. I apologize, guys. I can't type today. And we're going to grab the quantity in stock. So this will retrieve that specific field from our product in our stores vertical. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to use just some plain JavaScript. We're going to use an if statement. So if our product quantity is less than or equal to 10, and we're also going to check another flag on our product. We're going to check our product.inStock, which is a Boolean. So with stores, if it goes out of stock, it will still, it'll set this flag to false. And we don't want to show this if it's out of stock, because that product quantity is still less than 10, but it's now out of stock, which is a different notification for our users. So we don't want to show this if it's out of stock. So let's go ahead and check if it's in stock as well. And if both of those are true, then we want to go ahead and show our low in stock text field. So I'm going to select the low in stock text field. And this is where I can, oops, we don't want to hide it because it's already hidden. This is where I can choose to show it. So this is how you're going to enable dynamic functionality to show off different UI elements on your page based off information about your product. Otherwise, let's just go ahead and, oops. We don't need the arguments. Okay, let's go ahead and just keep it hidden. Oops, not show, we want to hide it. Awesome. So now based off of that, again, quantity in stock in our product, we're going to be able to see either this low in stock message or not. So let's take a look. We're looking at the pink clutch currently. So if I go ahead and look at my store and I look at my products, my computer's not awake yet, apparently. All right, let's go ahead and find the pink clutch. There it is. So pink clutch, oops. So if we look at that item, let's go ahead and find the quantity in stock. So we're going to see 12 items are available here. So we should not see the low in stock message. Which we don't. But now if we select a different item, for example, I've set it up so that our black bag, oops. So let's go ahead and look at our black handbag. Our black handbag inventory is below 10. So we should see the low in stock notification. And so we are seeing it here. So again, as we move through the pages, a user will get a different experience based off of those values in our products store. You can go ahead and minimize this so you can see that a little bit better. So now if I go back to my edit site, and if we do take a look at that black bag, handbag, if my computer decides it wants to work today.
I'm impressed already by you coding and doing this at the same time.
We can see the quantity in stock is below 5. Or sorry, is below 10 because it's 5. So those are some really easy dynamic functionality you can add to your site to show hide based off different elements about your products, or if you're working with another database, or just creating a more custom experience based off what users input. We're going to dive deeper into some of the other verticals in our following webinar. So if you want to see more about what you can do with the verticals, definitely come back for that second webinar. But let me go ahead and switch back over here and show you guys some resources if you're interested in learning more in the meantime. So if you want to learn more, we have a bunch of resources available on the Velo site, if someone can drop the link. So we have access to our API reference, which is where you're going to find the technical documentation about how all of the verticals and APIs work. So if you want to learn more about what you can do with the different front-end APIs and see what features and properties you can update, as well as events you can add to those UI elements, our API reference is going to be a great resource. If you're a newbie and you want to learn a little, you need a more step-by-step experience in getting to know Velo, our Learning Center has a lot of great tutorials where if this is a totally new experience for you and you want to find out more and figure out more what you can do with Velo, definitely check out our Learning Center because that's where you're going to find the step-by-step guides. Our community is a great place if you're already developing with Velo and you want to ask more specific and more technical questions. Definitely check out our community page. We have video tutorials too, if that's your preferred format, or if you want to rewatch anything that you've seen here before, such as this recording, I think, which will be available later. We have our blog too, so if you want to see, if you need some more inspiration about what other users are doing with Velo, check out our blog to find out more about what other people are doing with Velo and what other developers are trying with Velo and some of the latest features as well. And then last but not least, we have our examples page. So if you've already done some coding with Velo and now you just need a specific element that you want to add the functionality to your site, our example have snippets of code to add to your different UI elements or to your backend of your page. It's not going to be a full site, but if there is a specific functionality that you're already looking to add to your site, we have a lot of examples and they're constantly being updated too by some of our team as well as some of our advanced Velo users to check out some of the cool features you can add with Velo. So Joshua is dropping all of those links in the chat, but he's only dropping it to the panelists. So we can try to drop those to everybody. And last but not least, you can find us on Stack Overflow and Velo. So if you, with the tag Velo, so if you have any additional questions and you want to check out our community there on Stack Overflow, feel free to ask anything there as well. You can find Joshua and I on both LinkedIn and Twitter. So feel free to reach out to us with any additional questions that you have about this presentation or anything else you want to learn about Velo. And last but not least is we're going to do another deep dive on Velo with Editor X on June 9th at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. I can't do date time math on the fly here. So for you in Europe, the calendar invite will come around in the Editor X newsletter soon. So definitely if you have anything else you want to learn about Velo, drop those in the chat or the Q&A, and we'll definitely take that into consideration and try to answer all of those questions either right now or in our follow-up webinar on June 9th. So with that, let's go ahead and Edu, I see you back online here. So let's go ahead and take a look at some questions.
Yeah, thank you so much, Meredith. That was impressive. Really like coding and talking at the same time. Like, I mean, some of the skill sets I do not have. Awesome.
I try my best.
I know a lot of you had questions in the Q&A box that got answered already, and I'll make sure to ask a couple of you. There's one question that I think it's kind of relevant to the last point you were showing the example, which is essentially why not just use automatic inventory for stock quantity? When you did the example of like out of stock and low in stock, is there like a way to do that automatic, like as just managing like stock quantity?
I believe there is a way to do that with your stores. I just was manually inputting it so we could actually see those stock quantities, but I think there is a way to link it to your back office. But because I don't actually have a physical store set up, I wanted to show you guys the actual quantity so you could see them. So that was just a manual for example purposes, but I believe you can track it to your any sort of inventory management tool that you're already using.
Gotcha. Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. And obviously it's much more for to show how it works than the actual functionality itself.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Fair enough. Another question for you, which is probably like one question I should have asked at the very beginning. Do I need to learn code before I can use Velo?
So you don't need to learn code to use Velo. But I definitely would take a look at the Learning Center because that's where it's going to introduce you to a lot of the features of Velo. It's helpful to have a knowledge of JavaScript. Try a little coding yourself because as if you notice, I used like an if statement, which is a very standard JavaScript practice when adding business logic to your site. So it's going to be really helpful if you already do have an understanding. But again, our Learning Center will take you through a lot of the functionality that you need to understand about coding to get started with Velo. Got it.
That makes sense. Fair enough. Let's see. We have another question for you. I've got a lot of questions for you. Is it possible to use Velo to enhance the shopping experience? I think you just did that, right? But yeah.
I think I did, yeah, but you can definitely do more because I only showed you what you can do with the front end APIs, but we do have a Wix stores vertical API as well, which gives you ability to add even more complex functionality to your store. So beyond just kind of the show hiding based off different information that's available for your products in your store, check out the store's API as well to see a lot of the other functionality that you get access to with Velo for your store experience.
Awesome. That's great. That's great. So I also want to invite Joshua to, come up on stage, grab your microphone, get your pint of water. How are you, sir?
What's going on? I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. I have to say you guys are insane because Meredith coding and talking and you're like a machine answering like it's crazy. I'm pretty sure you got some Velo code behind you there to help. So Josh, I got some questions for you. So first question is, does Velo allow member-based login option like social media site features?
Yeah, so automatically, even without Velo, without using Velo, you can sign in with social media accounts like Google and Facebook as well, and even Apple. But you can also use Google Firebase too to do social media login as well. And Google Firebase is great for creating a single data source for a mobile application, a web application, and then you can use that to do like a single sign-in with your social media account, no matter what it is.
Awesome. Yeah. Great stuff. Another question somehow related, but this time Spotify related. Can you use, Editor X and, well, in this case, use Velo as well in cohesion with Spotify?
Yeah, so Spotify actually does have an NPM module that you can install. So Meredith showed you guys the GUI for the NPM modules that you can install. So all you have to do is search up Spotify. You can also search it on the NPM website as well to find the official NPM module that you can download. Install straight to your page, just like it's being shown here. Shopify and Spotify.
Oh, Spotify. Whoopsies.
Spotify. So yeah, you'll be able to download. I think it should be that one. I think it should be that one. Sometimes it's like you have to go on NPM and just be able to find the official one, but people make other ones for different purposes. So you can create an application with Spotify to find like the top albums in the country at the moment, or something that has to do with the songs that you're listening to or a specific artist. Yeah.
Gotcha. Awesome. Thanks. Josh, well, since you're here, I have another question for you. This one is a bit longer, so bear with me. Can you create a page using dynamic data sets to create an innerly, I have no idea what this word means, more specifically a section of dynamic page to show or hide depending on the filtered data?
Yeah, so I guess what they're asking is like, if you create a dynamic page and I have different categories or different items and I want to show and hide different elements on the page depending on what it is. Yeah, you definitely can. You can use the Wix Data API and then also some of the different front end elements that you want to drag and drop. And you can hide or collapse different elements depending on whatever that item is. So if you have a database full of or content collection full of sports and you want to hide certain stats on the baseball page versus the football page, you can do that.
Awesome. That's pretty cool. Awesome. And just before I continue with the questions, I want to make sure that if you guys are loving this, we're going to have a part 2 of this webinar that's going to happen in a few weeks time. So, make sure you keep an eye on it. There you go. Also, the contest that I mentioned at the very beginning. So if you have a really cool website you have built, go on editorx.com/contest and you can share that. The submissions will close next week. You can go to the website, just check the correct date, but it's really soon, I think in 5 days or so. So make sure you submit your website. We're going to pick the best one to win super cool prizes. So that's a good, there you go. Thanks for the live support there. So yeah, May 25th, that's it. Okay. So you got a few days left, but plenty of time to submit your URLs of cool websites you got. And again, I think Meredith and Joshua shared like all the resources you have for Velo. If you have questions on EditorX, you can also visit editorxcommunity.com, which is our community. You can go to editorx.com/academy so you can learn more about EditorX in general. And again, both together is like where the magic happens, right? You can get the most out of both. Now, another question for, well, any of you guys, which is, what is the difference between a regular database and external database? Thanks.
So we have integrated databases already built in with the content manager and Wix data that are already there, really easy for you to use and get started and connected to different elements if you need to. Some examples of external databases are like if you have a MySQL database from Google, Google Cloud, or if you have something on AWS or even DigitalOcean, which was asked about as well. Those are external databases that you'll be able to integrate with different adapters. So there's some adapters available right now for MySQL and Google Cloud, but you can also create your own adapter as well for different services. I think there's also one for AWS too. Yeah.
Awesome. That makes sense. That's great. Meredith, a question for you then, because you're giving the example on the low in stock. So the question is, to stick with your example, can you make a low in stock trigger based on user behavior? Say if someone looked at the same product multiple times, you would trigger a going fast. Oh, that's like booking.com or things like that, where it kind of shows like last room available. So you gotta run and pay and purchase. Can you do that?
Yeah, so you'd be able to do that. So what you'd have to do is you'd have to create a little bit of a more dynamic experience where you would ping the quantity a little bit more frequently based off of how many times like a user came to a site. You could also track how many times a user looks at a product using the members area in combination with the store. So yeah, exactly. I believe we have an example of the how many users bought this feature on our examples page as well. And so what you would want to do, if you want it to be real time, you would just have to create a timeout that would automatically ping it every once in a while. But you do get a little bit of a performance hit with that, right? So the more that you are going to hit an API on your front end, a little bit slower it's going to be. So you might want to do this on your back end as well. And if we do have an example, or sorry, I do believe we have an example on the how many users are looking at this feature. And so what you would need to do is you just need to track how many times this is getting looked at on your page, and you'd be able to like set a flag to record if this is like a hot item or not based off the number of views for your site.
Cool. That's pretty good. Awesome. So I think we got majority of the answers. I think there's a lot still, but again, as I said, you can join the community, ask the questions there. If it's an Editor X community, you go to our community. And if it's a Velo community, you go to the Velo community and can ask there. If you're unsure, ask in any, and we'll make sure that we'll look after you. And reminder again, thanks again, Meredith, for the reminder. We do have a deep dive on Velo on the 9th of June. So it's coming soon, well, fairly soon. It's going to be summer here in Ireland, so pretty cool. Looking forward to like a sunny webinar day. So I want to thank you guys again for your time. Everyone who has been here. It's like really, really good to learn new things. I'm learning every day. And again, feel free to, keep asking questions and joining us. Make sure to follow the resources. And if you took like a print screen or anything like that, screenshot, share on social media. You can mention us, and then we'll make sure to look after that as well. And cool. Thank you again. Thanks, Meredith. Thanks, Joshua. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, so awesome. Thank you.